there are different views about what's happening on farms in South Africa. So, in the video that I'm going to show, I want you to listen to what the commercial farmer are experiencing, what their issues are, and how they can be resolved. But equally, what they have to go through each and every day for them to be able to put bread on the table. The discussions around taking farms. Previously, I think the South African government was saying that they will buy the land and give it to the people who don't have land.
Yes.
And now it looks like the policy has shifted to they will, or there's a cause to get the land and give it to the majority who don't have land.
Yes.
What is your thinking, or what are some of the community members or farmers are saying from what you're hearing?
What I've had with a lot of the people, obviously now meeting them around town and having small conversations with them, not a lot of people actually have an issue with having a portion of their land given away. So most farmers have up to 150 hectares of which 75 of those hectares aren't actually being commercially used by them, whether it's for their household or for the business itself, that they're saying, okay, so we're willing to use this land for something. And the only problem that's coming in is the people who so far have had parts of their land taken, it's being given to people that don't end up doing the right things with them.
Okay.
So this land has been used for tobacco farming in the 1800s, and then it got used for corn, and then it was used for apricots and all of that. So it's been used over and over and over again. And so these farmers who have now been working these lands for the last 60 years don't want their land to be given to someone who's going to turn it into a landfill or turn it into how do you say, like a grouping of housing. They want it to be given to a farmer who's going to know what they're doing. There are plenty of individuals that are currently sitting with more knowledge than I could ever wish to have, that they simply don't have the space to do anything.
Sorry, what do you mean by that? Can you elaborate? Are these individuals farmers that are willing to help new farmers that will be given the land to do something?
Yes. So because the problem that comes in is the more land you take away from people who are going to use it to make more food, the less food your country has, and therefore we have to import more. And that's the problem that the farmers are having. So there are people who are desperately in need of land, who want to give back to the community. They want to grow their crops, to give to the local stores, to give to the local people who are hungry, and they just can't, because the land that they were promised doesn't get given to them, but the land gets given to the first highest bidder, if that makes sense.
The highest bidder is the person who is willing to pay.
The person is willing to grease the pocket the most. So not the official buy price, because the whole claim of we're going to take your land to give it to this person was it's meant to be almost for free, in a sense of the government will help pay for this. But what it seems like is going on, especially in Magaliesburg and places around us, is it's being given to a government official's cousin or his brother or his sister, and then this person is making a big fancy mansion on it, and then nothing gets done. It becomes a holiday home, the grass gets overgrown, the lands go stale, and then for the next person who does actually come in and buy this property, it takes them upwards of 10 years to reclaim the land to be able to farm with it once again.
So in terms of the process of being paid, are those farmers satisfied when that land is taken, or is the government paying? What is now the process now?
So the way that it was explained to most people is that per hectare of land, or per 10 hectares of land, depending on the agreement that you make, they will be subsidizing you so much, and you have a choice of it either being paid directly, it could be paid over a period of time, or it could be paid directly into your business. But it's one issue after another issue of, you have to come to this court date now you have to go here, now you have to get this registered and this signed. So it becomes this impossible process to where a farmer just goes, you know what, just have the land, I don't actually care, and then it goes to waste. This person has been put through a ringer so much that eventually they just don't actually care about getting paid for it anymore.
Do you have any evidence of a farmer who gave up land and was actually paid and says
here's my money?
Yeah.
Not one. I have been in this community for the last 5 years. I know 3 large farms that then actually split up their land to no avail. Nothing came to them. It was just issue after issue, and what ended up happening is then once the people did actually come in, because now the land was theirs, even though this gentleman didn't get paid or this lady didn't get paid, they still now have the rights. They still have the papers to say this now is my land.
But the person who previously owned it hasn't been paid.
Hasn't been subsidized, hasn't even been given a discount at the local store.
So tell me, are white farmers refusing to share some of the land with the African majority? Are they refusing or they are not?
So it's obviously it's a split. There are some people who are genuinely against having an African person come in and take their land, but there are people, as I said, that want to give this land because they have space. If you at some stage or another want to look and say, okay, I've got 50 hectares, I'm 90 years old, I can't be keeping this land, I don't have children, I want to give this land away. And they do actually want to help the community, but it's being given to the wrong members. So and that's what's making, let's say, Party A now not want to give their land away, because they're watching this farmer and that farmer saying, oh yeah, I'm going to give my land to the community and it's going to be used for good, and then it gets given to some politician's cousin and then it turns into a result.
So according to what you're saying, there are two groups of people who own the land at the moment. So there's one group that is willing to share some of the land,
yes,
and there's another group which is not willing to share the land.
Yes.
So what are the reasons from what you have heard for not wanting to share the land? What do they say?
So their main reason for not wanting to share the land is not only due to who is getting the land, but it's also the style of which that it's happening. So let's say now I'm a farmer, I've got 100 and something hectares of land that I've got. I'm only using 100, I've got 50 that I can give away. But during this process of me trying to find a buyer or going through a property insurance or anything like that, you come as a government official and you start laying stake and you say, no, this is now mine. How am I going to give this thing to you when you didn't even come to me and say, I would like to do this is the government subsidies, this is this and this and this? They don't do that half the time, and it is unfortunately one of the extremist groups that are in South Africa that do tend to come with pitchforks and torches and take your land, and if you don't want to, they will unfortunately either burn your land down or steal everything that you have on your property.
Okay, take me to another contentious issue that we hear in the media of security for commercial farmers. Obviously, commercial farmers, they live on their property, they are big land and so on and so forth. What are the security issues that you have either experienced or
I have experienced plenty myself, and I've known people that have experienced extremely bad situations. So it's depending on what you're farming with. So if you're, let's say, a poultry farmer, you're a little bit safer, but if you're doing cattle, sheep, goats, anything that's a large livestock, they will come and they will take half your flock, they'll slaughter them on the spot. And if you as a farmer try to stop them, if you try to put up security measures, they do come, and that's the main result of farm murders at the moment, unfortunately. And in this area alone, I think we've had about 10 to 15 farm murders in, I think, the last 2 years. I'm being honest with you, it's horrible. If you drive around this town, you'll see that there's one security company after another, because one company simply cannot deal with the amount of unsafety that is currently happening in our areas. And
tell me something, these security companies, are they government owned or
they're all privately owned? The most, like, let's say an ADT and all of these that are government subsidized, they aren't in our areas. We have Custodia, Red Ant, these no-name brands that have to be in the area because it's a person who lost their uncle due to a farm murder and has now been driven to have to start their own security company to do something about it.
And protect the other farmers.
Exactly, because at the moment, it's you risking your life every night to go to sleep. There's farmers that have one child, because now obviously we all stay together until we're much older. He will have his one son sit out the whole night staying awake, and then the next night it will be the next son, and then it's his turn. Because you cannot go to sleep anymore, because even if you have your security systems, they know how to switch them off. Even if you've got guard dogs, they just poison them. Even if you have a 24-hour security guard, they just shoot the guy. unfortunately, it's such an unsafe environment, and with the pricing of these animals, with the pricing of land, it makes it impossible for someone who's in a poorer situation to be able to start their own thing, to be able to grow their own food, because everything is skyrocketed, because now it is so hard for me as a commercial farmer to pay my way into getting a license, to getting this. So as that happens, the price of things just go up. I mean, 5 years ago, you could buy a calf for maybe 3,500. Now for that same calf, same weight, same breed, same everything, you're looking at about 15,000, because the price to keep them is just gone through the roof.
So let's look at the cost of doing farming as a result of this insecurity. Does this make it easier to farm, or it makes it even harder for people to farm?
Well, it makes it
or live on the property in the first place.
Yes, so it does make it extremely difficult to farm, because now what could have been a budget of feed, let's say you wanted to spend 15,000 Rand on feed, you now have to spend that 15,000 Rand on security. So now your animals are getting skinnier, your electric fences are getting higher, if that makes sense.
So where is the police in this, the national police, I suppose the country's police?
Unless you have a relationship with the police in this town, it will take them far longer for them to get to where you are, if they even arrive at all. That is the honest truth. Is we've had situations where we've called the cops, they arrived the next day. There was an active shooting on our farm where they were the people who were breaking in, trying to steal our animals. Before we even had a chance to look out the window, they were already starting to shoot, because they saw our lights come on. They already started shooting at our house. I mean, how can you deal with that? All you can do is sit inside your house and hope that they do not come in. You call the cops. If the cops even answer the phone, we've had 3 times now where the cops did not answer the phone. It just went and rang and rang and rang. And then we called our local security company, picked up the phone immediately. Cool, we've got 3 guys in the area, they're on their way.
So what do the police say themselves? Why don't they come in time?
So we've never asked them why they don't come in time, because by then you're in such shock. But it does eventually come out that, you know, they stroll their way in there, and then you tell them every single detail, and they go, oh, okay, we'll see if we can find them.
Someone has been, was anyone ever arrested, or the groups of people who are stealing a day?
No. We actually have a local in our area of our farming. So he has been an animal house, he's been a full-fledged criminal, he's a career criminal. He has, and I kid you not, his file is this thick at the police station. And not just us, not just this farmer, not the farmers next door, but every single farmer in a 10-kilometer radius, 15 kilometer, 20 kilometer radius have got 1, 2, maybe even 10 cases against this one person and his little group of friends. And
so why is he not being arrested if people know who the person is?
We would love to know. We have his name, his surname, his house location, his mother's name, his brother's name, everything. He's been arrested 4 times. Within a day he's out. And we have no clue how. We don't know why. All that we know is that his mother, she's been spotted doing it. The day after he gets arrested, she goes with a big bag of money. He's out within a day.
Okay, let's move to just another small area of this. What would make the life of farmers better in South Africa so that they're able to continue their work, and if even perhaps share the land if there's need? What would make the life of a farmer in South Africa better today?
What would actually make things better for farmers is to bring down the taxes and tolls that we have to go through as farmers. So that is a massive cut to our profits, to feeding our families, to feeding our next generation of cattle, cows, whatever it is that you have. Our taxes are absolutely ridiculous when it comes to agriculture. So if I have to go and sell 1 cow slaughtered, half that money is going into taxes. The other third of that money that now I've got left after taxes is going to the butcher, is going to this person, transport and this and this. And what I'm left with is just barely the price that I paid for that cow. So our taxes at the moment is ridiculous. Secondly, the transporting. So due to things like load shedding and all of that, so our power cuts off, that does become quite a big issue because now farmers are running generators, so that's fuel for that, fuel for their trucks, fuel for this. And I mean, you've seen the price of fuel nowadays, it's ridiculous. And that's a worldwide issue, but in South Africa they're especially hitting us quite hard with it. And I would say our safety, if people could just remove these extremist parties, because it's mainly the extremist political parties that are almost force feeding these ideas into people's heads, that it's not ours, it's mine. So whereas a farmer like me, I love to share. Even here at work, I share whatever I can. It's a big part of a nation to be able to share with your brothers and your sisters and the people that need help. And unfortunately, these extremist parties will tell you that this farmer who's been farming this land for the last 50 years, his father owned it for the last 1800 years, that land belonged to your great grandmother 10,000 years ago, so it is your land, you must go and take it. Don't buy it, don't rent it, don't make an agreement, just go there, kill the man and take it. It's yours. And if he doesn't want to give it to you, kill his cattle, do this, ruin his life. And that's what's been happening to a lot of farmers, is that they just simply cannot turn their back on anyone, on anything, because...
So how does that sort of rhetoric from obviously people who are in politics affect the day-to-day? So I get what you're saying. It does affect the psyche of people, yes. Because obviously people are being told something.
Yes.
But what about the national government? How is the national government or the people who are ruling respond to people who are saying those statements? Obviously, people who are ruling, they have to be responsible for everybody.
Exactly.
They have to take care of the masses.
So I'm sure that as most people would be able to tell you, it's all just false promises, so that they can say, I'm going to remove this person or I'm going to change that thing, and it just never happens. They make these promises leading up to an election date. They make these promises when enough people raise their stakes and say enough is enough. And then they'll do the 1% of the work, and the other 99%, they hope that you don't notice that they don't do it. And nothing ever changes. For the last, I can't even tell you how many years, we've been signing petitions, we've been sending in letters to officers, to governments, to officials, to anyone who is willing to listen to us. We've been sending letters, statements, videos, anything that we can to try and get them to understand that we're in danger. We need help. We please need this to change and that to change. It's gotten to a stage where people know exactly what we need. We know exactly what we need, what we want. And people say, yes, we'll make it happen for you. And it never does. And so another year goes past, and another, and another, and another. And in areas such as this one, it's turning into a resort here, a private-owned guest lodge over here, where what was a community full of hundreds of farmers has now become a small group of 10. That it's a sole group of a few people that are now still holding the legacy of farming within their blood. Everyone else is a rich politician's son who now owns this farm, and it's just sitting there. It's sat there for the last 5 years. He's visited maybe once 2 years ago.
So I think you've painted a very difficult situation for farmers.
Yes.
What do you see as the future? What is your perspective of the future going forward? The future in terms of two things, in terms of the farmer's life, but also in terms of the life between the farmer and the majority of people who are hearing this rhetoric from the
people themselves.
Yes.
So if I'm being honest with you, from predictions, because I do help a lot of farmers when it comes to their bookkeeping, that's one of my specialties. And if things continue the way they are, if prices continue skyrocketing the way they are, majority of these farms are going to close down. And once that happens, there's going to be no one who can not only afford to get back into it, but don't have the knowledge to get back into it anymore. because as times change, farmers adapt. Those farmers are able to teach the next generation. And if these people stop, if they get driven out of being able to do the thing that's keeping our country alive, everything is going to collapse. We're going to have to start getting our food from other countries. We're going to have to start getting our food from labs, and just the heart of what South Africa is, which is a farming.
Is there any impact on what is happening in government policy, and how do you feel about it?
There actually is, to be honest with you. So for my sector mainly, I do poultry. I'm an avian specialist.
Okay.
And
what is an avian specialist?
So avian specialist, basically that's anything to do with the line of birds. So that's ducks, quails, chickens, anything that really comes together into the avian species.
Okay.
And for me, I've got 5 steps I have to do to get back into a commercial level of farming. So that's being able to sell to you as a public member, being able to sell to a store, even being able to sell to a family member. Our licensing and our jurisdictions for certain things, like we are an agricultural state, which means that it's a lot easier for us to get our licensing compared to if you're in the middle of the city. But with corruption at the moment, things are extremely difficult. So let's say now if I want to go and get my commercial license once again, because now I'm doing a different sort of avian species, I'm no longer doing chickens, now I'm in quails. I have to go get a new license, but just to be seen, you have to start paying a little bit, and you have to start paying a little bit, and then the
official payment or unofficial?
So it's unofficial, because what will happen is, even just to be heard, even just to be seen by a government official, you end up needing to take something out of your pocket that then goes under the table. Or else you could take up to 10, 15 years to wait for something, and then by then your chance to have become something is now gone. Once you actually have your papers in check and you bring everything they say, you bring your ID, your farming this, your health certificate, you have everything in check, it's all in a file ready to go, and then that file will go missing. And then they'll say, okay, maybe we can find it if you grease this, you grease that. So you pay a bit more money and you pay a bit more money, and then suddenly your file gets found after you just gave it to them. Then to actually get your licensing, they say, okay, no, there's going to be an admin fee, but there's nothing anywhere that says about an admin fee. So now you're paying an admin fee plus you're paying for your license. Then they say, no, sorry, we lost the credentials for this. You're going to have to just quickly pay for this again. My man, what would have cost you about 5,000 rand to get yourself a new license, a new permit, a new Salles degree, you've now paid up to 15,000 rand, which makes it somewhat impossible for people that don't have a name in the industry yet to get into the industry. So just for me alone, it took me 4 years to get what was a simple local Salles license, which, that's a couple days of work.
So in terms of impact, how is this impacting your ability to go on with your business? Obviously, you have a target and a deadline to achieve certain things.
So it's a very big impact. So for most farmers, as in myself now, I've had to now get an extra job to be able to sustain my own farm that could be making its own money. Everything is all ready to go. I've got people that are wanting to buy, but I could get in more trouble for now selling you something without my license. So now I have a choice. Either I put myself into this large amount of debt to be able to start selling to people and hopefully make that money back, or I start selling around the corner and then I end up paying a fine of 50,000, 60,000 rand.